Welcome back for another video in this simple animation section. For this one, we're going to go over how to create a lower third for one of the project files. And I've imported this clip of President Obama. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and drag to create a new composition. And so this just defaults to the file name. What I want to do is first of all drag this into this folder, simple animations folder, and I'm going to hit enter to rename it simple lower third. I'm going to hit enter. Now we can see that it's renamed it down here. So if I play this back just for a few seconds.
Now despite this, some have had harsh words for the...
Okay, we can just see that he's talking and giving a speech. So what we want to do is we want to add a lower third just to show who he is and his name. And so what we're going to do is just make a simple lower third title card that just says President Obama. And then actually what we'll do is we'll make it say Barack Obama, and then underneath that as a subtitle we'll say President. So first we want to go up here and create a shape. And we're going to create the fill color to be something in line with this video. So one thing, you want to kind of complement the videos that you're working with. So if I go up here and click on the color, I get this. I can use the picker, and I'm going to pick a color out of this that kind of matches. So I want kind of like a presidential color. So I'll go up here and I'll click that, and we can see it comes up with this color, and click OK. Now when I draw my shape on here, it's going to be that color. So let's go ahead and use this shape. If we click off of it, this kind of gives us an idea of where it will be. And let's see what it looks like on this side. We'll just go from the left. Okay, we're going to bring it from right here, and now I want to make it look a little bit more presidential. So what I'll do is I'm going to right click on the shape layer, and we're going to go to layer styles and stroke. I'm going to put a white border around it. Now let's undo that, because what you can also do is come down here under rectangle, and there's already a stroke that you can change. So if I go to see how it's got color, it's just off right now, so I can turn it on. So let's make this 5 width on the stroke, and let's see what that looks like. Remember, if you don't want to have these, you can use Control-Shift-H to kind of see what the video looks like without any of the guides. So that looks okay. I think what we'll do is make the stroke a little bit bigger. Let's just go 10 and just see what that looks like. Okay, that's too much, so we'll do 7. Okay, so we're going to leave it like that. Now I want to use Control-Shift-H to bring those back on, and I want to bring this a little bit smaller. I don't want it quite as large, and we'll bring it about right here. Now another thing I want to do is I want to take this anchor point that's out here. I want to use Y to grab that and bring it over here to the left, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this zoom in from the side and kind of expand from the side, and you'll see what that does in just a second. So let's kind of collapse this layer, and let's rename this lower third background. And we can just use BG for shortcut. And then if I hit S for scale, when I scale this down, we can see that it does the entire size of the shape. Well, we don't want that. We want it just to come in from the left. So we're going to disable this link. This constrains the proportions, which means when you make it smaller, it makes the entire shape smaller. But we just want it to get smaller from one side, which is this anchor point. So now if I move this, you can see that it moves that way. If I undo and I move this, you can see that it only does the vertical. So let's undo that. So we're gonna move this forward to about right here, about half a second. And if you zoom in a little bit to make that a little easier, you'll get these other units, which is by frame. So 10 frame, 20 frame, and then 1 minute. So let's go ahead and do 20 frames, which is about 2/3 of the second, and not a minute. This is actually a second. And then we're going to put a keyframe right there. Then we'll go back to the beginning, and I'm going to put this on 0. So now when I play this back, you can see that it comes in from the side. Now that looks like it looks a little off because it's just really slow. So let's add some easy ease and see what that looks like.
Now despite this,
so that's a little better. I want to make this even just a little bit faster by dragging this over. So let's see what that looks like.
Now despite this,
okay, so that looks pretty good. Now what we'll do is we're going to go hit K to be on this keyframe, and we're going to add some text to where the text is going to come up on here after this slides in. So let's use Control T, and we're going to create some text, and we're going to make it say, actually we're going to do Barack Obama. And Control Enter. Now what we want to do is change the font size here. We want it just a little bit smaller. And we may even have to make this lower third even smaller. So let's bring it in here just a little bit. Now, when you're resizing things, you want to be careful because sometimes when you're resizing them, you can change your keyframes. So when we play it back, we notice we haven't changed anything. But we're going to click on this text layer and make this even smaller. And I want this to be, I'm going to kind of give this a little bit of flair, and I'm going to go back to my type tool and highlight this, and I want to make this a darker text, or more bold text, so it makes it stand out. And let's see what we have here. We can go to black. Not quite that much, but let's just go to the bold. All right, and then we're going to change all of this to a white text. Okay, now when we click off of that, I can move this around. And so we'll put it here, and then we're going to create another type layer. And we're going to, it actually made it inside there. So let's click off out here, and we're going to type in president. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to make this a really thin font. So we'll do regular, and then let's see what narrow looks like. Narrow italic. It's not quite thin enough. We want this to be less subtle than the actual names that are on here with his name. So we'll go to regular, and we'll do this faux italic down here. It looks like we have our bold on, so that's probably why. Okay, so let's go here and go to narrow italic. Turn this faux italic off. Need to have this selected though. Okay, that's good for now. So we'll control enter. We're going to bring this down, and we want this to be even smaller than our main font here. So let's move this up, and then I'm going to put this over here. Then we're going to try to align it and see what this looks like. Okay, so that looks good for what we're trying to achieve here. So now we need to animate these properties. So let's take this president. I'm going to take the transparency down to about 75 so that it even fades even more. And you would go in and make these look even better. I'd probably make this a little bit bigger to give some space. But for now, we're just going to leave it as is. And then one thing you also might do to make this even more kind of presidential is you could go in here and add another layer style for another stroke, and then you could change it to like a red. That gives it kind of that campaign feel. So we'll go ahead and leave it like that. Now when we play this back, you can see that the words are already on the screen, and when we play it back, that comes in and gets bigger because we changed the size of our layer. So under our scale, we can see that automatically added a keyframe when we resized it. So we're going to want to go back, and we're going to delete, let's see, we'll bring this back. We've got this that we need to expand. Okay, let's come back here, and I'm going to delete this keyframe right here on the end. And when that happened, you can see that it made it smaller. So what we need to do is go back to this keyframe and make sure that we're resizing it on that keyframe so it changes that. So now if you go to the beginning, you can see that it's still expanding from the beginning. So we're going to go back even to this keyframe and check our scale. So we're at 0 there. If we go to this one, we can see we're at 123.2 and 100. So we're going to just change this to an even number. Let's say 125. And go back here, and we'll change this to 125. That way it's the same when it comes out. We don't want it to expand the other way. Now, when we get here and this is in its fully expanded position, we're going to change these text layers. So I'm going to do the Barack Obama first, and we're going to do the transparency keyframe. And so I want to have this with nothing when this slides in. So we're going to create an opacity keyframe here, and I'm going to take this down to 0. So there's nothing there. And then we're just going to move forward a couple frames, and we're going to put it at 100%. You can either type that or drag this over, and then we're going to add easy ease here. Actually, let's not move that. Drag on it. Okay, F9. Then we can see as it comes in, the Barack Obama comes on, but I want it to be a little bit more subtle than that. So let's bring this out, and we'll bring it out. Okay, so we can see how it fades on. And then we want the president, I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. We want the president to do the same thing. So we're going to add a keyframe here for the opacity. So we're at 75%. So we want to bring forward the 75% and set it here. And we're going to go back with J to go to this keyframe, and we're going to put this at 0. and then we'll do an easy ease here. So now if we play this back, we can see, and let's use Control-Shift-H to actually see what it looks like without the guides.
Now, despite
Comes
this,
in, and then
some
his
had
name,
harsh
and then
words.
President shows up there. So this is very simple, but you can see how you can go in and animate the keyframes and bring this in from the side to be able to make a lower third. Now there's even more advanced things you could do. You could have your outer border animate. You could do a different animation with this. You could put some motion blur on it. And so for this, I try to keep it simple because a lot of times when you're creating animations, you want to fit whatever category you're working with. So for this, it's a presidential speech. You want it to be formal. You don't want to add a ton of motion blur and all these other different effects that you may think look good, but you're kind of sticking with whatever the industry looks. So there's a little bit extra spacing here. What we could even do further is take these text layers, and I'm holding Shift here to line them up. Maybe bring it back just a little bit. I could even do it in the center or bring it back further, and then I could go back to this keyframe here, and we could change the scale to go back even further, about right here. So when it comes in,
Now, despite
it's
this,
only
some
covering
had
up
harsh
that. Well, we could actually go back and expand it even further. So let's go about 80%. Should be about fine.
Now, despite this, some had harsh
So,
words.
like I said, you can go in and make changes that you want, but this is just to show you the idea and the concept behind lower thirds and how to make different changes. So last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to where we were and go up to about 85 because I like that spacing.
Now, despite
We'll
this,
bring it in, and
some
then the
had
name
harsh
comes up, and we'll take these text layers, and we'll move them over just kind of a bit over to the side here. Okay, so that's how to create a lower third. And the next project, we're going to be doing even more animations, so stay tuned to that, and I'll see you in the next one.